Okay, so this is a presentation that I did. I thought I did only a couple years ago, but when I went back to my files, I discovered that I did this in 2014. So almost 7 years ago. Time flies. I thought it was just, 2-3 years ago at the Vancouver Ancient Coin Club meeting that we usually have in the library. Anyways, it was not prepared to be a serious talk. It was prepared to have fun. And I still intend to make it fun, even though the information that I'm going to share with you is scholarly and factful. I chose Caracalla because we see many, many different faces of the emperor since his childhood. Yes, we have child emperors otherwise. Gordian is one of them, and Elagabalus another one, and we have some others. But Caracalla is the one that is displayed on coins in the most dramatic way, from very young age to all the way to his maturity. We see him on coins. Yet the depiction of the emperor, whether it is a childhood likeness or adolescent likeness or a mature man likeness, varies depending on who designed and engraved the coin die. And here we have such a brutal person who almost enjoys killing, torturing people. Somehow, some people survive, even though they didn't do a great job, and they would have upset him otherwise with the way that they created his coins. So again, not a very serious talk. After so many serious talks, I'll just share with you some of my impressions of this emperor. So it's the information age. As you see, we see this sovereign represented on her coinage from early on all the way to recent times. And so this is not a new tradition. As we know, the tradition started many, many years ago with the Roman emperors. Not the first one. The first one always remained young. He never aged. But this guy came to be known when he was a little boy. And we see his likeness almost on a regular basis, almost every year. And you can see how he developed year by year. That's why I chose to do this presentation. But of course, mostly going through online sale catalogs, I find many different renditions of his likeness, and I thought it would be interesting to look into that. Yeah. Okay, let's continue. So this is the young boy that whose father became the emperor. He was his father is from North Africa. His mother is from Syria. He was born in Gaul, so he represents 3 different races, as Cassius Dio claims. His name was Lucius Septimius Bassianus when he was born. But then his father is going to posthumously get himself adopted by Marcus Aurelius. However you can do that. Of course, we should not be startled by that because Julius Caesar or Julius Caesar claimed that he descended from Venus. So why not? This guy was adopted posthumously by Marcus Aurelius. Anyways, this boy was given this beautiful name, Marcus Aurelius Severus Antoninus. Cassius Dio always calls him Antoninus. He never calls him Caracalla, and he will later explain to us when they start to call him Caracalla. Anyways, so he comes from a very multinational, multicultural family. And yeah, there he is. He was called Caracallas later from a cloak that he, again, Cassius Dio claims that he invented. And not when he was a young child, but when he was a grown-up man, he developed this. So it was a cloak like this, and Cassius Dio says that he was mostly called Bassianus or Caracallus after his death. During his lifetime, no one dared to call him any of those names. So Severus dies at Eboracum, modern York, on 4 February 2011, leaving the empire to both of his sons to reign them together. Again, I refer to Cassius Dio. He says that they never got along from childhood, and there were the times that there were hostilities between the two of them, and Septimius was the main reason why they could live together. Otherwise, something destined to happen, no matter what, from very early age. So when he died, Septimius simply asked the two of them reign together, which was almost impossible. So what happens is they live in the same palace in different quarters. They are both paranoid about each other's plots. They have their own guards loyal to themselves. There was no way for any one of them to take the other one down until Caracalla came up with this shrewd plan and asked his mother to mitigate a meeting between the two of them alone, which was a plot actually by Caracalla. And sadly, Geta was killed in the arms of her mother. And again, Cassius Dio explains the scene so dramatically. I would really recommend that you read that. The book itself is available online. If you Google for Cassius Dio and Caracalla, you can easily find that. And he describes the scene as if he were there witnessing the whole thing. And he says, "Mother, that did spare me. Mother, that did spare me. Help, I'm being murdered." Just like Julius Caesar said, "Et tu, you, my child," to Brutus. It must have been a made-up phrase, I should say. So, no virtues but vices of three races. No political correctness by Cassius Dio then. The fickleness, cowardice, and recklessness of Gaul. The harshness and cruelty of Africa. and the craftiness of Syria were the adjectives that he found for this emperor. And as soon as he gets his brother murdered, he goes out to the camp, the military camp, to address the soldiers, telling them a story as though he were in danger and he was the target of the plot, and he just got away from this this plot, and he's there to he doesn't want to leave actually, if it were not the army, which is something that his father recommended before he died. Support the army, pay them well, and insult the Senate was the advice, and he simply followed the father's advice. And as soon as he got his brother murdered, he asked the Senate to condemn his memory. So damnatio memoria was decided by the Senate, and the memory of Geta was completely destroyed, erased. His statues were destroyed, and his gold and silver coinage were melted. And in some provincial cities, as we see here in Stratonicea, in Caria, they even chiseled off the figure of the brother. So this is really important. You can say, why didn't they destroy these coins completely? But the main idea was not really to destroy the coins. The main idea was to give the public the idea that this person's memory was damned. And of course, it was a political propaganda by Caracalla. So his sole reign begins in 2011. Actually, we should say 2012, because it was the last days of December 2011, and until he was murdered in 2017. Some of the major events of his time is the Edict of Caracalla, or Antonine Constitution, or Antonine Constitution of 212. He decided to give Roman citizenship to all free men in the Roman Empire, which was found appalling by many, but who dared to oppose. And Cassius Dio again says that it was a trick to increase the state revenue. And he was murdered by his Praetorian Guard, who was motivated by Macrinus, his prefect. In a very shameful way, when he was peeing, most likely, while traveling from Edessa to Caracalla. Edessa is modern Urfa in southeastern Turkey, and Caracalla is Harran in modern language. Again, not too far from the central provincial center, Urfa. They're both very nice cities to visit. If you ever go to Turkey, southeastern part is a must-to-visit area. Historically rich and very, and the food is excellent. So around 250 mints struck coins for this emperor. It was explained by ancient sources that he was a cruel emperor, but there were certain groups of people who loved him, especially the military. He spent all his money, mostly, other than his own luxuries, mostly on his soldiers or on the army. He was finding money and just pampering the soldiers. And one day, when his mother tried to warn him about depleting treasury, and he showed his mother his sword and said, "Look, Mom, as long as we have this in the hand, we will get money. Don't worry." So that's how confident he was in his reign. We don't have much information about forgeries, plated coins for other emperors, but this one again comes from Cassius Dio. He says the gold currency that he furnished to the Romans was debased, for he manufactured the one kind out of lead plated with silver and the other out of copper plated with gold. So you don't really hear that ancient sources talk about state forgeries, but we have this information for this emperor. When I checked for foray plated coins of Caracalla online, I couldn't find many. It must be because most of his denarii were melted down, and the new denomination that he introduced in 215, the Antoninianus, were minted using those coins. But of course, somehow some of those foray or silver-plated coins survived. But even when he put out a lot of foray coins, he took away a lot of silver from his legitimate coins. Here is one that is only 1.86 grams. And the cataloger swears that he couldn't find any trace of silver plating. So he believes that this coin is silver, no matter how much silver it has in it, but it is 1.86 grams, even though his plated denarii are over 3 grams. So he had this. And then, of course, this is not something that he started. Here is another denarius from his childhood time under his father's reign, obviously plated. So the state forgery was a common practice, as I always maintain. And many numismatists and historians don't want to believe that, but it is clear as daylight to me that this was a state practice. And then I came up across this interesting coin. The obverse is gold plated. I don't know if it is a modern thing or an ancient thing, or it was a special activity by someone. But this is really interesting. I don't know if Dio was talking about this type of gold plating, but there is this coin available online. Okay, so from the childhood on, we see his likeness on coins, I said, but how was he pursued by various mints? Um, so here here is a silver drachma from Cappadocia, Kaysera, modern Kayseri in central Anatolia, when he was Caesar. And here is one from Laodicea ad Mare in Syria. You can see how different they are. And here is one from the Roman mint, and when he was Caesar. So there is not consensus among the die engravers as to what he looked like. Yes, it was a small child under 10 years old. They were given that information, but they didn't have much information, and maybe they did this hastily, that they were supposed to mint some coins for this Caesar, because they had to give a message to other imperial hopefuls. So they did this in a way that they didn't care if he really looked like the new Caesar or not. So again, when you look at the bronze coinage, you see the same thing. He's 8 or 10 years old. Here is a Sistertius from Rome. You would think that his likeness is most accurate since this coin was engraved in Rome. And here is one in Cilicia, Mopsuestia, a completely different child. And here is another one in Antiochia ad Cragum, again in mountainous western side of Anatolia, southwestern side of Anatolia. And I can understand that this mint didn't have good die engravers, and it was just important for them to have the likeness of a child on the obverse. Now, going back to issuing coins, why did they have these coins, even though they didn't know how the new Caesar looked like? Remember our talk during Roman imperial coinage? Augustus, or as I would like to pronounce it, Augustus, introduced this this idea that he has to control the minting of all types of coins. Even bronze coinage in provinces had to be controlled by him, and he was getting his cut. It's for sure. It's not just a matter of having the control of coinage, but the revenue that he was extracting from that practice was, of course, most important. So the same should be true for all the followers of Augustus. So as soon as you have a new emperor, provincial authorities would mint coins for them. And it is because it was a profitable venture. People made money out of this, and the emperor got his cut. That's why it was not really important if they had the true likeness of the emperor or the Caesar displayed on coins. It was just important for them to issue something for the new emperor. So here we see 3 coins from the Roman mint. They're all from the same mint. Maybe you know, some time difference between each. Yet you see how differently he was represented on these coins. So we have to consider the level of skill that these coin die engravers possessed at that time. And you know, here you have an innocent little boy. Here you again have a very innocent little boy, rather puffy cheeks. This one is not so much. He must have gained some weight when they engraved this one. And this one is really curious. And I say, he was admonished by his father, and he swears that he won't try to kill his brother again. So that's that kind of expression in the face. So here we have a growing young man, and for some reason they seem at the Roman mint, they seem quite consistent. The likeness on the 3 examples here are very, very concurrent, even though this one is when he was 12 years old, and 13 years old, and 15 years old, a steadily growing young man with very similar features. What is most significant to me is that his ear is mostly covered by his, not exactly sideburn, but the growth of his hair. And in most of these, you see half of his ear. And this is going to be prevalent. You're going to see this on many coins, even in provinces. Of course, there are the ones that show the ear completely, but mostly you see that the ear is partly covered. So I'm just theorizing. There isn't any firm information about this, but how did the provinces get the emperor's likeness on their coins? After a while, of course. I think they were receiving a coin struck in the capital, and they were just looking at that coin when they designed their coins in their province. So we will see that later again. So later, we have the adolescent Caracalla. He's 17 years old on this aureus. And here he is, 19 years old, again from the Roman mint. And then he's 19 years old again from the same mint, but you see how differently he was rendered. But what is common here is the sideburn. You see, and here in these 2 examples, the engraver decided to comb his hair behind his ear so we can see the full ear on these examples. And here is another one when he was 20 years old, 21, and again, the same year when he was 21, and he looks like a different person. If we go back, the rendition of the face, the facial expression becomes so different, and we can only assume that it was just the perception of the die engraver that determined how they designed these coins. And also when you look at the coinage of Elagabalus, only a couple years after his death, or maybe 1 year to be exact, he looks very much like his predecessor, just Macronus between the two. If it were not the legend, you would simply think that this one is actually Caracalla. Yet we have some examples that really look like some of the busts of Caracalla that survived. And interestingly, and despite all the hatred and negative opinion about him, his statues survived in a considerable number. Quite many busts are available now in museums, and you can see the resemblance to the original when you look at these gold and silver coins. And then, of course, you see other coins that you feel, what the heck is going on here? Who are these guys? I mean, you know, the legends say that they are Caracalla, and added the Britannicus title to them, but it's just mind-blowing. And how can they do such such work that that would not make the emperor look like himself? It's just like a man with beard. That's it. And then we have his new coinage coming in 215, Antoninianus, double denarius that he wanted to advertise as, but it was never double denarius, or actually it was double denarius in his mind, because he had already reduced the weight of his denarius to such despicable level that when he created this double denarius, he was just saying, yeah, I created the double of what I reduced to nothing. So containing only 2.6 grams of silver with 52% purity, he introduced this coinage. And his likeness is quite gruesome on these coins. He's a strong man, quite restless in his appearance, and they're all from the Roman mint. Here I have 3 other examples showing how his likeness changed from 206 to 215. So when he was a young man, and then his beard starts to grow, and then he has a full beard on this one. And the striking resemblance is very, very apparent here to his statue. I get a notice here. It says your screen sharing is paused. Can you see the screen? I'll stop share and then start again. Okay, I hope you have the screen again.
Yes.
Yeah, good, excellent. Okay, so the die engravers didn't always do a bad job, and there are the times that they did very well, and sometimes they did extraordinarily well. And these are this is one example of that. And then we can look at the Sestertius, minted in Rome as a child. Caesar struck in 196, 197, and another Sestertius with some big nose. Whatever happened here, I don't think it's a die break, but somehow the die engraver decided to show him with a big nose. There was I don't know. There was something on the nose, and then the nose gets smaller. Maybe it was engraved by the same person, but later in 201, he looks quite like a handsome young man on this one. And you see that in his mature age, 213, and another 213, and another one, 213, 215. He's a fully grown man in his 20s, maybe 22, 23. Yet, when we go to the provinces, we again see a lot of different representation of the emperor. Moesia Inferior, not too far from Rome, is a very prolific region when it comes to issuing coins for emperors. Many coins were minted by prosperous cities of the Balkans at that time. Yet the likeness of the emperor is sometimes laughable, sometimes impressive, and other times just a young man. You don't know exactly what the die engravers were relying on when they created these dies. I think it was just important for them to create something and just issue these coins and put them in circulation so that they can generate revenue. That was the main motivation for them. Here is a teenager, Caracalla in Arcadia, Venus, struck in roughly 198 to 105, but most likely 198, 99. And here is our guy in Pontus, Amasia. It is dated, so we know it's from 208-9 when he was 20 years old. And here is another one, not too far from Pontus, Paphlagonia, Germanicopolis. And I bet these two dies were engraved by the same die engraver. You can see the resemblance of the likeness of the emperor. So in certain areas, they had fewer die engravers who worked for several cities. And then we will see in other areas, they had more than one die engraver that prepared dies for cities in the same region. And maybe Lydia is one of them. He looks like a kind and gentle young man here. And again, Sala in Lydia, again, an innocent young man, but obviously created by a different artist. Apollonius, again, the difference is obvious. And then Silandus in Lydia, you have another person. They're all in the same region, but the rendition of the likeness is different. And then another one, even though it is from the same city, you can see the difference in the rendition of the resemblance of the emperor. So I therefore suggest that there were multiple die engravers in this province. Haipaea or Haipaepa, Haipaepa, and Haipaepa. So from three different ages, the representation of the emperor. On this one, he says, okay, let me see what you've got for me. So he's visiting the area. He's asking people to bring his wine, maybe. And here it says, you know what? The local people say this, you know what? The emperor is a very nice guy. So look at the innocent looking guy. And in Kilikia, in Korikos, you have what you would see on his denarii, the likeness of the emperor that we see on his denarii. So obviously this person who prepared the die and looked at an original coin of the emperor. Yet when you look at this one, you don't know what this person looked at. A different perspective. It is also in Kilikia, and Diokaisera is not too far from Korikos. Maybe only 1 hour's drive. One is up in the mountains, the other one is by the Mediterranean. Obviously created by different die engravers. And here is an example from Adana, and again, only 1.5 hours drive from Korikos. You see different rendition of the likeness of the emperor. Korkira, you have this fully grown young man, Bithynia, with his beard. And then in Mysia, you have this caricature-like representation of the emperor. And in Pisidia, Antiochia, southwestern Anatolia, again, you have a chubby young child. And again, the same place when he got a couple years older, maybe he's in his late teens. And Timbriada, a completely different rendition of the same guy. And when you look at these, you wonder who engraved these dies? What was their motivation when they did this? And they are both from Kolebrasos in southwestern Anatolia. Maybe this one doesn't look so bad, but this one, obviously, this was not a very skillful die engraver. But at the same time, this tells us something, that they needed to issue bronze coinage, and they didn't care how they prepared the die. It was just important for them to issue coinage. And you can imagine how this works. You have to have permission to mint coins in your city. So if you have a governor in your area, you go to the governor, and then you have to visit the capital, and you get permission through certain circles of senators, if not directly from the emperor. Of course, you cannot expect the emperor to accept all the visits coming from so many different provincial cities. Only in Asia Minor, they had about 500 cities, the Romans. So you cannot really expect the emperor personally issuing permission to each and every one of them. So they must have delegated some senators and some local governors to issue these permissions. And once you have that permission, you have to act quickly, because you don't know when this emperor is going to disappear. And you have to issue as soon as possible so that you can benefit from that venture. And in some places, it was certainly quality control was not any issue. And this is interesting. This is I have a couple coins here, and that tells us that tell us how intelligent the coin die engraver was. And it was most likely the same guy that engraved all of these coins. So look at this guy. The face expression is the same on all the 4 coins. This one, a little child, no sideburns. Here, very visible sideburns. Here, growing beard, not completely, and then here with the full beard. Yet the expression, the face, is the same. The die engraver almost didn't change the face expression. It's even though it is a bearded guy, he looks like a child. This one, maybe he looks a little older, but in general, he relied on the same rendition that he created many years ago. So it is obvious that the same guy engraved these coins. So when he traveled to the east, he visited mostly Asclepius temples, suffering from this distressing visions. His father and his brother appeared in his dreams with their swords, and he was trying to find a remedy for this problem. So he was going to not only him going to Asclepius temples himself, but he was also sending his men to those temples to make offerings, whether in the form of monetary offerings or votive statues and sculptures. He was visiting those temples to get some kind of help for his illness. And here we see him sacrificing in front of the Asclepius temple, libating with the fiare in his hand, and Victimianus represented here with the god in his temple. And here again, he is shown libating. And on this one, you can't really tell it is the emperor, but on this one, the engraver did an extraordinary job. A curly-haired, fully bearded man sacrificing in front of the temple. And we have some extraordinary renditions of his likeness in Pergamon, and yet some funny ones. He looks as though he says, "I'm not impressed at all." So disgruntled emperor. And this one, I just put this, I had Botox because this is a heavily tooled coin in modern times. So he would have flayed the guy who did this, most likely, if that happened during his lifetime. And then we have this one. This is a mind-blowing example of contemporary imitation at that time, if not mockery. And I said, the die engraver committed suicide when I summoned him. Yet somebody must have seen something in this coin, and it was sold for 900 GBP in 2019. So who knows? Changing figure in 10 years, I say here, Pontus Amisus, a young man, and Phrygia Laodicea, and he was, you have a completely different likeness of the same emperor from 198, 99 to 211. So it's only, these are all dated coins, that's why they are important to know. So they're only 10 years apart, but you have a completely different man in front of you. Then we slowly go to the east, to the south and east, Seleucus and Pera, which is Antiochia, 217 almost, and then the same place, 211, 212. And look at this one, an extraordinary likeness of the emperor. Very, very beautiful rendition of the coin die. Very, very factful, if the sculpture is factful, which we have no reason to doubt. And then at some point, he was younger, and his likeness was rendered in a very, very good way. And I want to draw your attention to the health ear establishment that I made and sideburn. So there were certain features that were known by the die engravers, and they were given that information. It was not just random looking at a sculpture, looking at a coin, but certain features were obviously given to the die engravers and asked them to keep that in mind and employ them in their work. And then there are those die engravers who don't care. You can say that there's no supervision, no quality control, that's why. And that's why you say, who was the die engraver's model here? We are still in the same region in Syria, northern Syria to be exact, yet you have a completely different person. All the same, when you look at the rendition of these two examples, they were created by the same person. They were done by the same coin die engraver. And again, we are going somewhat to the east in Syria, near the Parthian border towards Iraq. Coele-Syria, Heliopolis, and going back to Cyprus, a completely different person on these coins. And it's a wonder how these engravers came up with these portraits. And here is a map of the area just to show you they are actually very close to one another, yet the rendition of the coin dies is dramatically different. And then you have these people. Again, we are in the same area. Who are these guys? It's impossible to recognize if it were not the legends. The legends are somewhat discernible, so that we can safely say that they are Caracalla's coins, but completely different looks. Now, we are right at the border with Parthia. Creestica, it's the Haran region, as I mentioned, where he was killed, actually. Hierapolis is not too far from that region. We have a serious-looking guy, a very, very serious-looking guy. But look at this one, a furious guy. Look at the eyebrows, look at the face. He is ready to yell at you, or he's ready to fight, he's ready to attack you. So I think this was intentional. It was not just a it was not just an ordinary coin. It was giving a message to the enemy that you are here to face a fiery guy. Be careful. And again, you have the same mint. The head is big, and they wanted to show his likeness. It was intentional. And he's holding his shield and a very small hand holding a spear on his shoulder. So again, a message to the enemy. You are facing a very strong, fiery guy, and be careful. We go back to the west in Phoenicia, Berytus. You have very different rendition of the emperor, very close by cities, but different die engravers. Maybe you can say this one, the Tire coins are very similar, but Berytus, a completely different person. And when you look at this one, this head of the emperor, the resemblance or the likeness is very, very striking. So the die engravers had access to his true likeness when they created these dies. In Egypt, he has very few coins, and it is for a reason. And because he heard that the Egyptians spoke ill of him, and he didn't disclose his intentions until he arrived in the city. When he arrived, again, Cassius Dio says that he accepted the envoys from the city. They brought him gifts, and he smiled, and he welcomed them. Then at night, he sent his army to butcher the people indiscriminately. On some account, they say 10,000 people were killed. On other accounts, 20,000 people were killed. Of course, it is impossible to know the exact date, exact number. Nobody, I'm sure, counted the deaths at that time, but he slain quite many people in Alexandria, despite the fact that he was envious of Alexander the Great himself. And previously, he favored the city of Alexandria, but he was a very, very temperamental person, and you wouldn't trust his friendship at all. These enigmatic gold medallions were found early 1900s, and they show clearly the likeness of Caracalla. Nobody exactly knows why they were created and by whom, because the series contain quite many coins depicting Alexander the Great and some other female deities with the reverses with mythological scenes. But these two clearly represent Caracalla. And you can see the striking resemblance of the emperor with the sculptures. And finally, when he was little, the die engravers had the courage to show him as a little liar. So Pinocchio was actually created during the Roman period. And Caracalla, child Caracalla, was the first Pinocchio. Thank you. Okay, I think I have some questions here. I'll try to see the questions. I'll stop sharing and go to chat. Okay, Wen says that he went to Haran, Caracalla. Yes, that's very nice. I hope you enjoyed your visit there. Tony says in 1968, Abdel Halim Caracalla found what would become the most prominent and professional dance theater. Okay, he's talking about dance theater. Okay, we will certainly watch that one. Thank you very much. And Peter asks, what are those counter marks? On the counter mark that we see, let me see, I'll try to bring the presentation again. Share. So if we go to the beginning, after he got his brother's image erased, he put his own, these are all Caracalla counter marks. This one is, again, an eulogy to the emperor. They call him God, Teo. But on this one, they have his own likeness. Either they wanted to say, even though this coin is damaged and the likeness of the other person was erased, it is still a legal tender. You can still use them. So double propaganda, let's put it that way. Okay. Another question. And Ben says, Gordian 3 has an incredible number of issues and varieties for many mints, tarsus. Yes. Do you think this was to raise money, as you suggest for Caracalla? It was for all emperors, and it was a win-win situation for everyone. The cities that issued coins also benefited from that. Otherwise, why would you issue a token coinage? Because copper, bronze, other than silver and gold, they were considered token coinage. They were only circulated in their own region on the value that was given to those coins by the issuers. Whatever they were worth, we don't know, but they were only circulated by size. They were accepted and used by size. If they were larger, they suggest in certain sources, ancient sources, we see that they are called asaria. So on certain coins, we see the value mark, 10 asaria or 12 asaria. Not when it is smaller, but when it is larger, we see value marks. But not every city has that. Only a handful of cities put value marks on those bronze coins. However, if there is one thing certain, that it was a money-making initiative that both the city officials and the emperor were benefiting from.